for their work in promoting awareness for colorectal cancer. Dan Boren, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. I think you're hearing the same thing over and over again. My colleague, Kay Granger, talking about early detection, talking about how important it is to go and get that test. You know, we lost my mother, but if you look back in our family history, my grandfather had colon cancer, my grandmother had colon cancer, and they did catch it early. And so if you're someone out there who's watching tonight, this afternoon, and you haven't gotten it done and you're thinking maybe you should do it, even if you're not at that 50 marker, if you have someone in your family who has been diagnosed in the past, think about going and getting that test. You know, Mr. Speaker, someone else, Katie Couric, the anchor of the CBS Evening News, is a strong advocate for colon cancer awareness. She lost her husband to this disease and since then has led a personal campaign to bring awareness to this issue. A few years back, she told a compelling story at her old job on the Today Show about a family that lost a loved one to this disease. I think it's a compelling story that I would like to share on the House floor today. Mr. Speaker, Michael and Erin Stennis learned the hard facts about colon cancer in the worst possible way. This is their story. Michael Stennis, an ex-football player, was the picture of health. 43, fit, a businessman who owned a chain of successful restaurants. He and his wife, Erin, had been married for 14 years and had 2 gorgeous children. His wife discusses her husband's persona this way, and I quote, "He had a lot of strength of character. He was amazing. He wasn't afraid of voicing his opinions. He loved his friends, and his children were his life. He was the consummate family man." Mr. Speaker, you can tell that Michael was an all-American guy. And yet it's hard to believe such a vibrant man would have such a difficult fight ahead of him. 3 years earlier, when he was just 40, Michael started experiencing irregular bowel habits and rectal bleeding. Like many Americans, he thought it was nothing serious. His wife began describing what happened and said this, and I quote, "He had blood in his stool. He went to the doctor. Unbeknownst to me, the doctor suggested that he have a colonoscopy. And my husband, being the very macho man that he is, did not want anything invasive. He just could not imagine that type of procedure. So like thousands of other Americans, he came home and said, 'It's been taken care of.' And that was it." But a few years later, Erin realized that something was very wrong with her husband. She said, and I quote, "It had gotten to the point where he was having such severe pain because he was an athlete, he sucked it up. He would say to himself, 'If I feel something, oh, you know, I can work it out.' But it got to the point where the pain became so severe that he had trouble moving. And finally, in November of that year, she said, I walked into our bedroom and I saw him hunched over in the closet. Something was very wrong. So she finally got Michael to go in for the colonoscopy, and then they got the results. It was the evening of their daughter's Thanksgiving pageant. They got a call from their family doctor and friend, Peter Waldstein. She described the scene this way. My husband was on one side of the room and I was on the other side. And his cell phone went off, and I could see him on the phone, and I could see the change in his face. It was our dear friend Peter calling to tell us both the news. And we knew from that moment on that our lives had changed forever, as she explains. He was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. The cancer had spread from Michael's colon and had metastasized to his liver. It was a devastating prognosis. After a long 20-plus month fight with this horrendous disease, Michael Stennis died. He was 45 years old. And Mr. Speaker, this is a story that is told countless times across America. It is a story of a young and vibrant individual who has seen his or her life end far too early because of this horrendous disease. It's a sad case, a case that is very similar to the one that took my mom's life. It's a story similar to the ones that took former White House Press Secretary Tony Snow's life. And I think it's Congress's duty to do something about this. My colleagues and I have introduced multiple pieces of legislation aimed at addressing this terrible cancer, but we need Congress to begin the process of examining it. Every year, this disease takes thousands of lives, and it is my hope that with the support of groups like the American Cancer Society, the Colorectal Cancer Coalition, and my colleagues, we can make an impact. I can't tell you how much that I have personally lost from this. How many times I want to pick up the phone and I want to call my mom. I want to bring her picture back up. This is a real human face. These are real people that are dying, and they don't have to be dying. All it takes is a simple test. My mom waited too long. She got the test too late. I don't want this to happen to some other family in America. So I need your help, all those in Congress, all of my colleagues, but I also need the American people to write your member of Congress. I introduced this legislation in the last Congress, in the 110th Congress. I got like 4 co-sponsors. People were scared about the insurance companies. But let me tell you what, when given the choice between my mom and the insurance companies, choice is very easy. We need to help these families. This is why I came to Congress. I didn't come to Congress just because it's fun. I came to Congress to do something. This is what it's all about. Someone once said, public service is about helping people. Let's help these families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 6, 2009, the Chair recognizes the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Byer, for 60 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, it's pronounced Booyer.